In the UK, Honda launched the HR-V in 1999, and it was an instant hit with customers. Its tall boy design, roomy interior, and zippy handling won over British motorists almost immediately. I mean, I wasn't alive then, but that's what I've been told. That original model was produced until 2006, but returned for another run in 2015, and it's this generation that we're talking about today. Today, the latest model is very different from its predecessors and even shares little besides the name with its ancestors. But it still remains popular in Europe and Japan. In America, the HR-V is sold as a subcompact crossover SUV, and the first version arrived in the United States in 2016. It was based on the same platform as the Fit or Jazz, the third generation, and was assembled in Celaya, Mexico. That first year, it came in for trims the Base 60, the Sport, the X, and the Touring. And this second generation is still in production today. Of course, as a certified car enthusiast, I've done my fair bit of test driving, right? Just off the top of my head, I've driven in Britain, America, and I think from that I've sat behind the wheel of quite a few compact SUVs. So I know what I'm talking about, but when it comes to the 2025 Honda HR-V, whether you're just looking for a quick family runabout or something discreet for your daily commute, it is worth learning that this compact SUV isn't necessarily the same as its competitors. And so, without further ado, let us metaphorically turn the key in the ignition as I uncover ways that the Honda HR-V is very different from its rivals. When I first laid eyes on the 2025 Honda HR-V, the first confusing thing that I noticed is that it insists upon looking more stylish than its predecessor. Lawrence, what do you mean by that? Well, here's how the HR-V's design works. We'll get into specifications later. The exterior styling in Britain, where I first saw it parked outside a Tesco and asked the owner if they had any free dental floss, is known to be quite sleek and modern. When you walk around it, you notice the coupe-like roofline, the G-to-stay grille design. Nobody would ever mistake it for the old model. Or no, one for its distinctive LED headlights, or no, to 4 its sculpted body lines, 3 for its stylish alloy wheels. And you get my drift. In America, I don't know why my hand is still up there. In America, it's a little bit different because that same car where I enter the dealership and talk to the salesperson and ask them for some free dental floss, and they actually know what dental floss is, looks equally appealing. And this is usually denoted by the number of heads it turns on the street. So the styling immediately impresses that is 2 and then 3 and then 4 and then 5. And then I am a little bit hazy after that, and then you get to sit inside it. And this is where those pan-Atlantic differences really take shape, or should I say size. Because there's one key rule on the whole. British compact SUVs tend to be smaller than their American counterparts. And the reason for this, as we all know, is that America marginally out-freedoms Britain? But it's also because Britain is about a 40th the size of the United States. And so we just sort of cram things in fact, awkwardly. A tiny British compact SUV was where I first met my in-laws, and they were staying in a car about the size of this studio, which surprisingly, given that I am often dubbed America's finest British import, is not that big. And at the best of times, I don't like being in close proximity to humans. For being squashed in a car with my future in-laws was the second most horrifying experience of my life. And I know what you're thinking. Ooh, Lawrence, what was the first? Being squashed in the elevator with them on the way up to see the car. But the next time we met in an American compact SUV, we sure did have a chuckle. At least I think we did. I couldn't hear them because they were on the other side of the vehicle. You see, American compact SUVs like cars or Porsche sizes or America itself are just bigger. I mean, they'd have to be, right? Especially given what we've discovered on this channel about the differences in car sizes. And of course, a driver's seat is not the only place in a compact SUV where you'd sit. In addition to the driver's seat, the passenger seat, and in desperate times, the boot, which should prompt nobody to ask me about the luggage incident of 1998, there is also the back seat. And I know what you're thinking. Yes, Lawrence, the British back seat has separate climate controls for left and right. Well, firstly, that's not always true, and secondly, that's not where I was going with this. I was actually gonna mention the legroom because while in America, the back seat and the front seat are more or less spacious, this is often not the case in Britain. To go from the front seat to the back seat, you often have to kind of squeeze in because the legroom is tighter than the floor. There's one thing to remember this, getting in, but getting out when your legs are cramped and numb, it could lead to an unintentionally hilarious TikTok video. In fact, I do have footage, but I can't show it on here because I get hundreds of complaints and an equal number of marriage proposals, so just take my word for it. Electric plugs are of course found in many places and through much of our daily lives, but never more do I need them than when I'm in a car. So, because of this, it is worth remembering some of the key differences between British and American car charging ports. Don't take my word for it. Instead, listen to me from last year. It was once said by me in just a second from now that you can tell a lot about a country by the size of its charging ports. And given its unparalleled record of boasting larger stuff than everyone else, America might fancy its chances of winning the My Charging Port's bigger than your charging port debate. But the truth is, and you might find this shocking, British charging ports are larger. You can't talk about EV charging without talking about connectors. Connectors are the protruding sticks of metal that keep the charging cable attached to the car like a docked plane. And the only reason I made an aviation sim there was to draw your attention to the miniature control tower I made from British and American adapters while I was bored. Anyway, there are several key differences in this department. On British charging ports, the connectors are ever so slightly longer and crucially thicker. This makes them sturdier and impossible to bend. How do I know that? Because I was 14 once. But whereas British charging ports, that is type to connectors, definitely do have 5 pins. In America, the 5-pin connector is reserved for plug-in hybrids. Pure electric vehicles will use CCS connectors which have 7 pins. This is a problem because a standard British connector has 7 pins. See where this is going. These CCS connectors are thinner and shorter than their type to counterpart, and this could cause wear and tear on the connector and socket. Not to mention that British chargers cannot accommodate the CCS connector and vice versa. A simple solution to this would be to purchase a CCS adapter which costs approximately $25.10. This is a boon for American owners of British EVs or British owners of American EVs. As with many areas of life, cars are their own sub.